You're listening to the Murphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Murphology Podcast, aka Murph here, to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? So, you may or may not know that in addition to the Murphology Podcast, I am a co-host on another podcast called Just Go Bike. It is about topics more specific to the week-long bike ride across Iowa, near and dear to my heart, called RAGBRAI. This week, I'm going to play the most recent episode of Just Go Bike podcast where myself and Andrea Parrott discuss all things RAGBRAI. The RAGBRAI registration for 2022 is now open, and we talk about important dates along with what's changed and what's new, including why RAGBRAI is now labeled as an 8-day ride, what's up with no more lottery, and moving the route announcement to Friday. Also, Andrea will give us the scoop on Ride the Rockies. And as a tribute to RAGBRAI co-founder John Karras, who passed away recently, we are replaying his interview from the very first episode of Just Go Bike. So if you know about RAGBRAI, you'll want to tune in. And if you do not know much about RAGBRAI, it's still worth a listen. You may end up in Iowa next July to ride across the state with us.
Well, listeners, we're back. We're so excited to be talking to you again.
Yes, for sure. We are back and ready to talk to everyone about all things Just Go Bike.
Yeah, I had a really nice time away from the podcast. I have been biking hither and yon. But I'm glad to be back here in Iowa and focused in on RAGBRAI and with a fresh set of legs.
Yeah, and we're coming to you, listeners, in the middle of November 2021, and there is all kinds of great stuff happening. So, A, that's why we're back, and then B, we're back because we love it.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. And just like you, I've been doing a ton of biking as well, all over the U.S., actually, but also happy to be back in Iowa, ready to get the fat bike out when it's going to start snowing, even though I don't know if I'm ready for snow.
I know. We just took our snowblower in to get serviced, so I've made a commitment to winter at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not willingly.
Right. Well, I think like the biggest news that we should share with the listeners is that RAGBRAI registration is
open.
It's open. It's time to get registered if you want to ride your bike next July.
Yeah, and RAGBRAI next year is going to be, it's always the last full week of July, but in 2022, it's going to be July 23rd through 30th. And it's funny because here at RAGBRAI, our calendar year flips over basically between October and November. This time we make the logo, registration opens. So I made a post on social media the other day where I said, it's 2022. And everyone's like, are you living in the future? And I'm like, it literally took me 10 minutes to realize that was wrong.
You're like, actually, I am living in the future at all times.
That's right. Well, at least until January, I'll be living in the future and then catch up.
Yeah. Well, I know that there is some new things happening. And the biggest one that I want to talk about is that you guys are now calling RAGBRAI an 8-day event. And I see a lot of chatter on social media about it. You know, you've got the people who are like, wait a minute, RAGBRAI is 7 days. And then you've got the other people saying, that's brilliant to say that it's 8 days because it really is. So what's the scoop?
Well, look, there's been a lot of chatter. And first of all, anytime people are talking about your event, you're happy. I'm happy because it means people are thinking about RAGBRAI and they're, even if they disagree with things, at least they're passionate about it. So I love to hear people talking about it. But the reason we decided to do that is, first of all, if you haven't seen our logo for 2022, it is a hot air balloon. And there's a popular book called Around the World in 80 Days. So it's a play off of that across Iowa in 8 days. So that's where it all started from. But we always felt like we never paid enough service to the day zero town, the first overnight town where we all come in and we gather and we get ourselves excited for RAGBRAI. We're not actually biking. we all know it's only 7 days of biking, but I don't know anyone who really is only there for 7 days.
Right. I guess technically I'm there for 9 because I go up the day before. Well, technically when I ride my bike to RAGBRAI, but we don't have to get into those technicalities. But I almost, when you were saying, when it starts at the expo, I almost thought you were going to blow it and tell us the first town for 2022.
Yeah, that's why they don't tell me, because I would.
Okay, so day, the first, I guess we're going to call it the first day, or day 0 is the day of the expo, which is a super exciting day. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit later. But the other thing that I saw online that was new is that there's no lottery. So what does that mean?
Well, and it's weird to have, it's a big change. It's different. I mean, we've had a lottery since, I don't know, the early 80s or late 70s, where, we would literally get thousands of mailed in paper applications that we'd have to actually draw in a real actual, like a bingo style lottery, where you're like, we have a big drum and they're like, I don't know exactly how they did it, but I mean, that's how I imagine it. But now we have the internet and we can just accept applications as they come.
Sure.
If you want to ride RAGBRAI, go ahead and sign up. The reason that we set it up like this is because we have a lot of riders from out of state or out of country even, who have to make major travel plans to come and join us.
Oh, sure.
And we want them to be sure that they're going to be able to actually ride. Like, somebody who lives in Texas has made their flight reservation, hotel reservation, charter reservation, and they don't even know for sure that they're going to ride RAGBRAI. I mean, it's not very welcoming. And we want to be a welcoming ride.
Yeah. And I never made the connection that the lottery happened way back when, because everybody mailed in their paper applications.
Yeah.
Like, that's mind blowing to think about that, because now I don't even know the last time I wrote anything on paper or, I'm not a millennial, but I do everything online anymore.
No, I know. I fill out, I don't know. I don't even know what I would fill out, but my hand always hurts. I was going to say I wrote a check, but I haven't had a checkbook in a decade.
Yeah, I don't even write checks anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, we're kind of dating ourselves. So anyway, I do think that I read, so registration is open right now, and the price is the same as it's always been, right? At $175?
Yep.
Okay.
At $175.
Through February 28th, you can get that price. And then after that, it goes up. Is that true?
Yes, the price increases on March 1st to $190. So it's only a $15 difference. It's not that big of a difference.
Right.
But the reason that we're sort of funneling people to register earlier is because if you don't all ask us questions at the same time, we can help you out a lot better.
Yeah.
It feels bad to have to copy and paste answers or feel like we're not helping people as much as we could be. And this way sort of spreads everyone out throughout the year a little bit more. So we can, if you think about it, if each and every one of the 10,000 riders emails us once, that's 10,000 emails.
Wow.
And there's only 3 people that answer the emails, and it's not any of our full-time job.
Right. Yeah.
So, but we all are dedicated to helping everyone. And obviously everyone is welcome to email us. Don't worry, we can handle it. But I feel like we can get a little bit more one-on-one time if people come earlier.
And then because of what you just said, also registration, I don't know if closes is the right word, but is it still April 1st is the last day you can get registered for a week-long pass?
For the week-long pass. And then the day passes will stay open until June 1st.
Awesome.
And the reason they close on June 1st is because we have to have time to package and mail everything.
Yeah.
And then as usual, the day passes will be available again on the ride.
Awesome. I can tell you, I don't remember how many years ago, let's say, 10 years ago, I literally went to register for RAGBRAI on April 2nd. And it was like, registration is closed. And I'm like, what? So, of course, I'm one of the people that emailed you guys and was all like, are you sure registration's closed? And whoever wrote me back was like, yes, registration is closed. And so then I ended up having to get 7 day passes, which, was probably a hassle for you guys as much as it was for me. But that taught me to put it on my calendar to make sure I register on time.
Yep. I actually, I've been working for RAGBRAI for almost 10 years, but I do remember way back in the day when I registered myself for the first time when I was right out of high school, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sign up for RAGBRAI. And my mom's like, Andrea, that registration closed like 2 months ago. I already signed you up.
Oh my gosh.
It's a harsh reality. I mean, I'm sorry. It's a fact of having to mail things and making sure that things get there on time. But like, it's not necessarily, you're thinking about bikes.
Right. So anyway,
we can remind everyone.
So if people are listening to this before March 1st, get yourself registered. If you're listening after March 1st, you can still get registered. If you're listening after April 1st, you have a couple of months to do your day passes.
Yeah. So, get with the program or come see us on the ride itself.
Yeah.
We sell the day passes in the merch trailer. We love seeing people come.
Awesome.
But you have to actually write with a pen.
Yeah.
So that's the downside.
So in addition to no lottery and it's, now advertised as an 8-day event, you briefly spoke about the jersey design. And can people actually go online and buy that merchandise yet?
Oh, they sure can.
Woo-hoo.
Yep. Our gorgeous 2022 jerseys are available online. If you buy them with your registration, you get $10 off.
Oh.
So I definitely recommend if you're planning on, some people may buy the jersey and not ride if they're buying it as a gift or if they just like it, which is awesome. But if you're already planning on registering, I would suggest bundling because then we just mail it right to you along with your wristband and it's all good to go.
Awesome.
The only trade-off with that is that you then have to wait to get your jersey with your registration packet. So, you can get it sooner for $10 more, or you can wait and get it with your registration packet. Up to you. But the cool thing about this jersey, now we haven't really talked about the sad event that has happened recently, which is the passing of our co-founder, John Karras.
Yes.
And we'll get to that in maybe a minute, but the jersey does have a memorial to him on the sleeve. And we're also going to dedicate the ride to him
in
awesome. 2022.
That is awesome. Okay, so you can get online, get registered, get your merchandise ordered. The big question is, where will we be riding next July? So in the past, we've always done some sort of route announcement party. Obviously last year it was online, but do you have details yet on route announcement party?
Oh, I sure do.
Woo-hoo!
The thing about the route announcement party this year, it's going to be just slightly different in that it's going to be on a Friday.
Okay.
So
now I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have heard a lot of chatter on the fact that route announcement party is on Friday, and people need to understand the reasons, because I think the reason behind it, moving from Saturday night to Friday night, the reasons are brilliant.
Well, if I don't say so myself. So Friday, January 28th, I'll say this before I even get into why it's not set in stone for the forever and ever. Amen. If people end up not liking it, we can switch it back to Saturday. But the reason we have it on Friday this year is because we want to have at the Iowa Bike Expo on Saturday, each of the 8 overnight towns that were selected, they will be at the expo. So they're each going to have a booth there, and they're going to be able to talk to you, and you can make a person-to-person connection with maybe someone who's going to be running the campgrounds, or maybe someone who can give you advice about what to do in the town, or one of any different things that any number of things that you may want to do while you're in the town. It just to put a face with the town and get to know them a little bit, the flavor of the town.
Yeah, and it's just one more added excitement level for that town, because now they're going to get a tiny taste, because the Bike Expo, which happens that Saturday, that draws like thousands of people. So I'm sure some of these small towns are going to be like, holy moly, there are a lot of people that like riding bikes.
Yeah, they'll be excited too because they have to put in a lot of work pretty quickly. So it'll help get them, and they'll be able to give each other advice, because inevitably some towns have hosted before and some haven't, or haven't for a long time. So it's nice for them to network with each other before we really even get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So you and I will be attending the route announcement party for sure. But if people listening want to attend,
the page will go live on Monday, November 22nd.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Just depends on when you're listening to the episode, but it has either recently happened or it's about to happen, or either way, it'll be up online soon if it's not when you hear this.
Okay.
So in the route announcement, I mean, some of us are going to have kind of a big role, Murph.
Yes, I am going to be one of the MCs for the evening. So
Yay.
this might be the first time in my, almost 30 years of doing RAGBRAI, I may know the route a few minutes before the rest of the world. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a surprise. I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe they'll just hand me an envelope and I'll be like the old days of Johnny Carson where I'll have to rip it open in front of everyone. I don't know. But we're
going to make you guess and then see if you're right.
I'll be like, and it's going to be this town. And then you guys will be like, nope.
No.
And meanwhile, everyone in the audience will be, anyway. So the party's going to be like in years past, and you'll get lots more details. Like Andrea said, Monday, November 22nd, the link will go live and people can get registered and see what all is going to be happening. But then...
and let me just add real quick. So it is on the Friday. I know some people have to work and it's hard to travel on Fridays. We'll also have it virtually.
Oh,
so
good. Okay.
There's 2 different ways that people can attend. So don't you worry. We'll have you covered.
Wow, that makes me a little bit sweaty to know that many people are going to be watching me.
You're going to nail it. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then we should also point out that this event benefits the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, and they are a huge advocacy group that represents the whole state of Iowa. So don't you agree, even if you're not living in Iowa, you want good things to happen to bicycling in Iowa because you're going to come and ride your bike?
Right. And I mean, the cycling infrastructure, I mean, where I live in Des Moines, we have a fabulous bike trail infrastructure due in no small part to the Iowa Bicycle Coalition.
Yeah.
But just the laws, I mean, sometimes the legislature here they do so many great things, but they also do some things that seem to come out of left field. Like one time there was a bill that was almost passed where everyone on RAGBRAI would have to wear a reflective vest.
Oh, that's right.
Mark Wyatt and the Bike Coalition worked to make sure that didn't happen, because could you imagine riding in 100-degree heat in a reflective vest?
No.
I mean, just the thought. I mean, so things like that, even if you don't see it benefiting you, it benefits you as a RAGBRAI participant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we really love working closely with them and helping fundraise for them for this event.
Yeah. And then speaking of the Iowa Bicycle Coalition, they host I think it's the biggest one-day bike show in the Midwest called the Iowa Bike Expo. And it happens after you party, you find out the route, you find a hotel room or a gutter, you wake up the next morning and you head to the Bike Expo.
Yes. So then route announcement is on January the 28th, and then the expo is on the 29th.
Okay. Cool.
So just to get that clarified, I mean, it'll be all over the internet, so you won't be able to miss it. But it's the last Friday, Saturday of January. So on the 29th, it'll be the expo. And like I said, those RAGBRAI overnight towns are going to be there. But then, I mean, any kind of bike vendor you can think of, not just bicycles, but bike clothing, bike tourism destinations. I mean, you name it, you got it.
Yes. And
this expo.
The Iowa Bike Expo is free to the public, which is pretty darn cool that you can go, like you said, get a chance to talk to the overnight towns and also, get a New Jersey or I think usually there Des Moines breweries are there, so you can have a little sampling of a brewski. And and you're benefiting the Iowa Bicycle Coalition again. So it's a pretty cool event. And I do know their website is live, and it's iowabikeexpo.com. So after you're done listening to this episode, get over to the interwebs and find iowabikeexpo.com.
Yeah, and you can see what you might be shopping for.
Yeah.
And yours truly will be there. I mean, if anyone cares.
Wait, me or you or both of us?
Probably both of us.
Yeah, we'll both be there.
I would venture to guess. So if you have any bicycle questions, they will be answered.
Yeah. Okay, so
whether we know the answer or not.
Well, yeah, we won't make it up. We'll find the answer for you.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, so I feel like we've got a lot of good coverage on RAGBRAI registration. Of course, RAGBRAI.com is your main source to go and look. And if you're listening to this, after Thanksgiving or beginning of December, you'll have all the links for the route announcement party, for registration, for pretty much everything you want to know about everything to do with RAGBRAI, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, exactly. So it's all coming to you pretty soon if it's not that already. We like to have it available for people to talk about during the holidays.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just love the idea of having the announcement Friday and then going into the expo even more excited because you already know, like, I'm going to stop at that booth and see, if they have world record of some sort that I need to check out, or if they have some sort of sculpture that's really cool that I want to put on my list to make sure I stop by. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I should say that the RAGBRAI merchandise trailer will be there completely stocked.
Okay.
So
all right. Good deal.
We got all sorts of good stuff this year. Yep.
Okay, hard question for you, Andrea. I also read on the interwebs that the family of RAGBRAI has welcomed a new ride.
That's right. We have a new baby. Actually, it's a fully grown adult ride. But we have welcomed it to our family. It's Ride the Rockies is now a part of our same company, which is incredible. Our company is technically called Ventures Endurance. It's a part of Gannett, which is the newspaper chain. Anyway, we have acquired Ride the Rockies, and I could not be more excited because what a classic brand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ride the Rockies.
It's right up there on the whole. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I do know Ride the Rockies has been around for a long time, many, many years. So that's a well-established ride that I'm sure a lot of people either have it on their bucket list or they have, they can tell you that they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those bucket list rides, and it's also extremely difficult.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like almost, I think I saw almost 30,000 feet of climb over 6 days.
The one in 2021 was about 28,000 feet of elevation gain at over 418 miles. So this is no short ride either.
Right.
I mean, they had a required 100-mile day. Anyway, but you go on a ride like that because you love biking and you're going to get a lot of biking.
Well, and think of the views. I mean, you were in the mountains of Colorado. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's bananas. I mean, you may be dying, but you will have a beautiful death.
So I would guess Ride the Rockies is similar to RAGBRAI in that, it's a lot of people. It's it's multiple days. It's multiple routes. But I bet it's not the same as far as the festival atmosphere. Or maybe it is.
Well, it does have, no, it's not the same. Because it's so hard. I mean, there are bands sometimes, there are things to go and see and do, but at the same time, you'll have just completed thousands of feet of climb. So, it's up to you how much you want to go out and do, but it's not the same as RAGBRAI where you're going to go have, I don't know, half a dozen beers or more after riding.
Right.
So it does have a different flavor, but it's also so much of an adventure that you'll be well entertained the whole time.
Yeah.
And this is just me going off of what I understand about it I've never ridden it, obviously, but I think it might be in the cards for me. So I'll tell you in more detail later.
And did you ended up going, right, for the announcement of the welcoming to the family?
Yes, we flew out to Primal HQ, which is in Denver, Colorado, and Primal is our CycleWear bike jersey sponsor. So they hosted us there since we don't have an office out there at the time. And so we all went out there and I got to talk to so many people. And the thing that is the same between RAGBRAI riders and Ride the Rockies riders is these people are passionate. They love Ride the Rockies. I believe, don't quote me on this. This was the 35th Ride the Rockies this year. And there was a gentleman there who had ridden every single one.
Wow.
Which was just so cool to get to talk to him and learn about it. And I just can't wait to hear some more stories about all the different adventures people have had on this epic ride, like truly epic.
Yeah.
Ride.
And I definitely can feel that future podcast episodes will be talking about Ride the Rockies just because it's something new to the listeners. It's exciting for me, exciting for you. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it too.
And the ride happens. Last year it was June 13th through 18th. So it's always those like teen days in the middle of June. So hopefully I'll be in shape by then.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. Like that's, there's not a lot of, well, I guess there are a lot of hills in Iowa. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Not like that. So anyway, I'm getting the trainer out, long story short. And I just can't wait to to get to be more involved with it. It's such a treat to have them as a part of our, I don't know if you'd say, group of rides that we'll be working on. So
yeah, and I am looking forward to seeing photographs of you in Colorado in the mountains, and so I can share my excitement.
Passed out on the side of the road, like just my arms above my head, laying there on the ground.
Yeah, you might need to.
I have read up on their SAG system.
I was going to say you might have to make
SAG
sure they have a SAG service, but anyway,
yeah.
So I think, since we've been talking a lot about RAGBRAI, you kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but we should really, let's do a little tribute to John Karras, because if he wouldn't have done that, way back when
Donald Call,
him and Donald Call, like deciding to do a bike ride to kind of get out of work for a week, like, that they had no idea it would turn into what it is now. But gosh, if they would have never done that, you and I probably never would have met.
Don't say things like that.
I know.
I mean, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and they had no idea. There's this quote from John that I just love, and it said, "Invite the readers along? What a stupid idea."
Oh my gosh.
John, I mean, he was known for his very sarcastic sense of humor, and this sort of shows that. But I mean, how could you have any idea?
Yeah.
And how could you? I mean, any number of rides have popped up across the United States and have never been like RAGBRAI, and it's because of the people of Iowa. But Karras and Call saw that because of being, so deeply involved in the community, and they got themselves their butts on bikes, and there's something about being out on your bike for a whole week that's just appealing.
Yeah, and I have heard Mr. Mark Wyatt tell this story a couple times, but for many years, John rode his bike across Iowa on RAGBRAI, and I think he had like a license plate or something on the back that said John Karras. And Mark told this funny story that he would pedal up next to him and be like, "Well, hi, John. Is it your first RAGBRAI?" And John would look over at him and be like, "Oh, geez, Mark, come on." I just thought it was the funniest story, because here's the guy that invented RAGBRAI, and he's just riding along like everybody else.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he's just a normal-looking guy. He was just one of an Iowan who loved cycling. I do think he had a bike that said his name on it, which I guess not everybody has that. Oh. And I believe that it's at Bike World West here in Des Moines.
Oh, cool.
If you care to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah. So our thoughts go out to his family. He actually was passing out patches in 2021, right?
Yes. It was a point of pride for him. He loved coming out and getting to know the riders, getting his picture taken, shaking hands, kissing babies. He just loved being out on the ride, and he would do whatever it took to get out and be on the Karras Loop and hand out patches, even if it was just for a short time, because, the heat is pretty intense. Yeah. But he just loved being out there and seeing the riders, and he would come to every Iowa Bike Expo as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember, this 2021 Bike Expo was when the unveiling of the Karras and Call sculpture, he was there, and he, helped pull off the sheets, and he kind of looked at it and he's like, "Well, that's kind of weird to look at yourself like that." I just thought it was like it was just so cute how he's like, "Oh my God, what is the big deal here?" Like, he doesn't, I don't think he realizes how important RAGBRAI is to so many people.
I know, and I think that it's pretty overwhelming to think about it. I mean, even as someone who's had a small part in it, I can only imagine what it felt like to be so integral to the whole story. The thing about John, there's any number of stories that anyone could tell about John, and I'm sure that I'd love to hear your stories if anyone has one to tell us. Yeah. But, and I have some that I'm not willing to share on the podcast because I think you'd be embarrassed. But if you ask me in person, I will tell you. But my favorite story about John, I mean, it's not even a big story, but when I came back to RAGBRAI, he called me to welcome me back to RAGBRAI, and that meant so much to me. Oh, yeah. So that's one of my favorite memories of John, even though it was just a short phone call that didn't really, it's not really even that interesting to talk about, but it meant so much.
Yeah, it meant a lot to you. So, and it probably meant a lot to him that, He's like, all right, somebody's taking care of my baby, the baby called RAGBRAI. But
yes, I'll never forget.
I found a quote. I think it's from the Des Moines Register that I want to read to you because it just is hilarious, and to me it describes Karras to a T. So his quote is, "What do we do if we're out there on the road between nowhere and nowhere and it starts to rain? Well, we'll probably get wet. And when the rain stops, if we haven't found shelter on a farmhouse porch or in a barn, we'll dry out." I just love that because he's just like,
that's awesome.
Well, of course you're going to get wet if it rains. Like, I thought that was really funny.
That's perfect. It sums him up. So the one thing about Karras's memory that I haven't really mentioned yet, I don't know if you know or not, but the t-shirt company Raygun out of Des Moines has made a couple of shirts that are John Karras quotes.
Oh, cool.
Including the Invite the Readers Along story, which I've purchased, but and another one. But all the money from those are going towards Keep Iowa Beautiful. So it's a nice fundraiser in his honor.
Awesome. And do you want to tell the listeners the sculpture that's also in his honor, where that's located?
Yeah, so we just had that. It's been in the works for some years now, but it was just installed this spring due to COVID. It was a little delayed. So it was installed in the spring, and John was there and he was able to see it. The sculpture of Karras and Call is located in Waterworks Park in downtown Des Moines, and it's in a really nice new developed area that they've made with an amphitheater and some really cool lighting. But not only that, there's an open, nice public bathroom with little, not just water fountains, but the kind that you can fill your water bottle in. So it's really bike friendly, and it's sort of at the nexus of several different bike trails around the Des Moines area. So it's really perfectly situated. So if you're biking around Des Moines, see if you can stop there and just check it out. This sculpture is made so that you can put your bike under Karras and Call's hand, so it seems like they're holding your bike up for you. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I have a picture of that exact thing. He's holding my bike up, and I'm kind of looking up at him like, "Hey, thanks, man." So yeah,
yeah. So the sculpture is awesome, and it was a lot of the funds for the sculpture were generated by you, the writer. So different teams, different clubs, different organizations and individuals all fundraise money for this. So it's a really cool way to honor him.
Oh, yeah. And I also think shout out to you guys at RAGBRAI for honoring him by putting him on the jersey this year, I think, or for 2022. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's something we did for Colin, we did for Greenie. So it was the least we could do for him. And he passed away in a time of year where we're able to plan some cool stuff to honor him. So we're going to do that on the ride as best we can.
Awesome. So speaking of Karras, tell the listeners what they're going to hear next.
Oh, I'm going to tell you. The first, if you don't remember, for longtime listeners will know, but the very first episode of Just Go Bike was an interview of John Karras by Kyle Munson.
Woo-hoo.
So, we don't do a lot of reruns on this show. We don't replay episodes very often, but I felt like it has been 4 years, and I think there's nothing more appropriate than learning about and hearing from Karras in his own voice. And of course, Munson is an excellent interviewer, so he really does it justice.
Awesome. Well, let's take a listen to the interview of John Karras.
This is Kyle Munson for the Just Go Bike podcast. When I'm on the mic for this podcast, I like to say, to remind you that life is not a race. It's a wonderful, wacky ride. And one of the men most responsible for why I do say that is sitting with me right now. Back in 1973, John Karras was a copy editor with the Des Moines Register when he and his friend and colleague Donald Call created a bike ride across the state of Iowa that would be called RAGBRAI, the Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. Basically what they did was create Woodstock on wheels, and the event that is largely responsible for the bicycling culture that we know and love today, or the culture that sometimes we curse when we're struggling up a steep hill. But I'm happy to be with John here today, this morning. John, back when you started RAGBRAI, when you and Donald Call started this state bicycle ride across the state, you called yourselves wannabe hippies. Why were you a wannabe hippie?
Well, because we were middle-aged already. I was 43, And Donald, I don't remember, he's maybe 6 years younger than I am. And I kind of wanted to be a hippie, but I could never make the grade.
You were a working man in Iowa, so you're just too responsible, I guess.
Well, yeah, we had kids, and I'm married and 4 kids, and that's hardly hippiedom.
I was struck. So obviously, the bike ride started that first year. You guys had no idea what you were creating. But then when the second year came along and you decided to do it again, you wrote something which really stuck with me. So here you were describing kind of the philosophy for what was called RAGBRAI, or the second annual Great Bicycle Ride. And here's what you wrote at the time. You said, "As I've been trying to convey from the start, the basic approach to RAGBRAI must be one of cordial, informal, happy insanity." I love that, happy insanity. "What do we do if we're out there on the road, between nowhere and nowhere, and it starts to rain? We'll probably get wet. And when the rain stops, if we haven't found shelter on a farmhouse porch or in a barn, we'll dry out. How many miles do we ride before stopping for meals and water? As many as we wish. In riding 60 or 70 miles a day, how long will it take? Just as long as it takes. Not a moment longer." Now, to my mind, that is the philosophy that established RAGBRAI and the way that people still act out there on the road, and really a lot of the way that people approach bicycling across the United States. How did you even think to approach it that way?
Oh my goodness!
Why were you so laid back about it?
Well, I can't answer that. It just seemed like a fun way to put the thing together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just enjoyed doing that.
Yeah. I mean, were you and Don kind of products of baby boomer idealism or something like that?
We're a little older than that, and very responsible people. Disgustingly responsible.
Was bicycling for you a way to get away from the responsibilities of life?
Oh, I never thought of it as getting away. It was more like getting into something. It was really a lot of fun. And you drive around Iowa, and it's not very impressive in a car. And one of the things that we found, Don and I found on bicycling, when you bicycle through Iowa, was stunning, incredible. You approach a river valley, and there are a lot of river valleys in Iowa, and it's full of mist, and it's morning. It's just glorious, beautiful.
And you kind of fell in love with, I guess, the landscape of rural America on bike.
Very much so.
Wow. And this was you were doing this way before anybody, I guess, did this as a popular pastime. I mean, you guys were out there with, tractors and cars, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't a lot of bicyclists on the road with you, I assume.
No, there weren't. No.
How did you approach doing those? I mean, it's pretty well documented. I mean, you guys started doing longer rides before you created this statewide bicycle ride, which is what led to RAGBRAI. How did you guys approach those longer rides?
It was kind of a discovery thing. I had a bike as a kid, but I never did any long-distance bike riding at all. In fact, I grew up in Cleveland, and there wasn't any place to ride a long distance in Cleveland. So this was all a kind of a gee whiz, look at this kind of experience. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah. And why were you and Donald Call such good bicycling partners, I guess? Was there something that made you a good duo on two wheels?
Oh, I have no idea. We were very good friends.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just bicycling. We were We got together a lot with our wives and did a lot of things together.
Something else you wrote, you've written, through the years, obviously, a lot of columns about bicycling and about RAGBRAI, and you wrote a book about, RAGBRAI, or as you like to say, it should be called RAGBRAI. That's the proper pronunciation. But you said that you and Donald Call hadn't the faintest intention in 1973, when we invented RAGBRAI, of creating the most successful newspaper promotion since William Randolph Hearst started the Spanish-American War.
Yeah, I remember that.
Indeed, our intentions were modest to the point of embarrassment. Our only goal was to talk the register into paying our expenses while we tootled across the state on our bikes. We also assumed it would be a one-time event, rather than what Call later called a life sentence. We hadn't anticipated the incredible enthusiasm that the ride generated, nor had we anticipated the wonderful hospitality of people throughout Iowa. Now, here we are sitting, obviously, all these years later, still talking about bicycling. Do you like what bicycling has grown to become? Do you love all the trails? Do you love the industry? Do you love the spandex? Has it become a monster in some ways, or are you in love with modern bicycling?
Oh, I don't think it's a monster at all. I think it's marvelous. This country has become a sit on your butt country, and bicycling gets people out and gets them out in the air, get your heart rate going, and it's just, except for the occasional accident, there's hardly anything bad about it.
Yeah.
To my mind.
Yeah, you're right. It gets people, like you say, you discover the world in a whole different way. You're out in the world and you're exercising. As you've written about before, you were a lot of these bicyclists back in the early 70s were a bunch of cigarette smokers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was a 2-pack a day until I was 40. Well, I'll tell you, that's another thing that happened. I quit smoking because of the bike ride. The first year, I had one teenager following me all week long. He found me every day. As a kid from Grinnell. And the next year I had 4 of them. And we'd go up, we played games and we did all kinds of stuff. Try to go up a hill with one pedal, stuff like that. And we'd get up to the top of a hill and we'd get off to rest and I'd light up a cigarette. And here these kids are, they're poking each other and look at me and, what kind of jerk am I? I've got to quit this. I can't. I'm a folk hero to these kids, and I'm smoking cigarettes. It's ridiculous. And so it took me a year to quit. It was the worst thing, one of the most difficult things I ever did, because it really is addictive. But I think I'm certainly a healthier person for it.
Could you ever have imagined yourself as a bicycle racer or a...
No, absolutely not. I've never been a fast cyclist. I tried to get into some I entered some local races at one point, or tried to, and when the gun went off, my race was over. So I was too slow. Never could work up any speed.
When you were bicycling in the 1970s, you guys typically always biked on roads. Is that right?
Country roads.
Country roads.
Well, that was another discovery, the secondary road system in Iowa, which is like an amazing network of bike paths, hardly any traffic at all. And that's one of the things that's made RAGBRAI possible, actually.
Yeah. Did you ever really enjoy bicycling in another state or some other part of the world? Was there any other place in the world that really you fell in love with as a bicyclist?
Oh, not specifically, no. We've bicycled somewhat in Wisconsin, Minnesota. We biked in Holland and southern France. But that's years and years and years ago, a long time ago.
I appreciate you sitting down, John, to talk about all this. And, like I say, I think you've waged a big influence on bicycling culture nationwide, let alone in Iowa. We always ask people, though, we try to ask people, what's your favorite kind of pie?
My favorite kind of pie?
Yeah.
Cherry.
Cherry?
Yeah.
Is that lifelong, or is why?
I can't remember when I didn't like cherry pie.
Right. That's a fair answer. Thanks so much, John, for sitting down with Just Go Bike. Appreciate it.
Well, listeners, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed hearing a bit more about RAGBRAI. It is the oldest, longest, and largest bicycle tour in the world, and something I look forward to every year. Email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting. Support my podcast at patreon.com/murphology. Visit my Instagram page for daily entertainment and check out my website for all kinds of bicycle stuff. And a quick shout out to Simmons Electric for sponsoring this episode. I will leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Alexander McCandless. The joy of life comes from our encounters with new experiences, and hence there's no greater joy than to have an endlessly changing horizon, for each day to have a new and different sun. Think about it.